Okay, so while June is LGBTQ plus Pride Month, coming up in about 3 months, there'll be a Boise Pride Festival and a parade, something that has been celebrated in the City of Trees for 33 straight years. This year will be the 34th. But if it were up to a few Idahoans out there, it would have ended last year at 33.
Much of the controversy about Boise Pride involves the now postponed Drag Kids event, something Idaho Republican Party Chairwoman Dorothy Moon says sexualizes children. In an email sent out last week, Moon listed festival sponsors and their phone numbers, encouraging people call and, quote, express disappointment. Since the GOP released its statement, several businesses withdrew participation from Boise Pride, although not all of those businesses withdrew their funding.
Okay, so they were hoping to hit the festival in their pocketbook, and the controversy did get in a few jabs. Zions Bank was the first to pull out, followed by Idaho Power, Idaho Central Credit Union, Cap Ed Credit Union, and Idaho's Department of Health and Welfare, spurred on by Governor Brad Little. 60,000 plus people, though, still showed up to support the festival despite the unwanted attention. But we wanted to know if organizers going into this year were awash in sponsorship aftermath apathy. We asked the executive director of Boise Pride if they're seeing a financial impact from, I don't know, however you want to describe what happened last year.
Religious extremists trying to force, to harass a bunch of our sponsors to back out by trying to twist this narrative of something that it wasn't.
It kind of worked.
Yeah, maybe initially, but at the end of the day, we had 4 or 5% of our sponsors that physically pulled out. So 96% of them still stayed. Didn't do anything. It was business as usual. They didn't call me. They weren't concerned. They didn't email me. They weren't concerned. They just, when do we show up? This is our time to do this. Is this still like nothing was happening. And the festival went off great, you know?
Okay, success. But when the dust settled after last year, were you worried about donations this year?
Some board members were. I wasn't. I had, off the top of my head, I probably had a dozen or more sponsors that had reached out, new sponsors, basically new businesses that reached out during all of that going on, that said, like, we want information, we want to be there next year, we want to be a sponsor. So if anything, it actually brought us more business in regards to that. But we do have a couple of sponsors that Brown Foreman was a fairly large sponsor of ours, and they're not going to be back this year because they said it was due to the bad publicity from last year's event, so they just want to take a step back. I've had a handful of sponsors that have been non-responsive to this point, so at this point I have to assume that maybe they're not going to be participating this year. I'm not into rainbow wash sponsors. I'm not into sponsors who say, hey, we support you, and then when it hits the fan, they're like, we'll see you next year. Like, I don't buy into that.
I guess the worst case scenario would be Boise Pride Fest doesn't get the funding it used to get. Are you worried about that?
That's not a worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, we'd have to cancel the festival altogether. No, I mean, will we raise as much money as we did last year? I hope so. Will we raise more than that? I hope so.
Based on years past, heading into June before the festival, are you guys in a good spot now, or you wish you were?
We're in a good spot. I wish we were in a better spot, but we're in an okay spot. I'll know more in like the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Bottom line, then. I mean, your sponsorships are going to be who they are, and you guys are going to be...
And we're going to do what we do. We're going to put together a festival for the community.
Williamson said the festival costs anywhere from $350,000 to $450,000 just to put on. And just getting that stage put in at Cecil Andrews Park cost them more than $100,000. So to pay for it all, they rely on those sponsorships, from the Violet level of $1,500 to the presenting level of $50,000. Williamson said he's confident Zions Bank will be back this year. He said he has not heard back from Idaho Power or Idaho Central Credit Union, and they're not inviting Cap Ed back this year. As for the Department of Health and Welfare, he says he is having conversations with several departments within health and welfare, so even they could be back this year.